The following production is presented by League InfoSite and the Credit Union Broadcast Experience, QTV.
Hello, I'm Sean Wolbert. Thank you for joining me to review the new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau Home Ownership Protection Act requirements for member counseling in conjunction with mortgage loans. The HOEPA rule implements the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act's amendment to the Truth in Lending Act and the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act in regards to high-cost mortgage loans and additional mortgage lending requirements. This presentation is going to focus on the HOEPA rule requirements for counseling. This requirement is a bit confusing, and there are many questions about this that we will apply to credit unions and to members. Credit unions are required to provide a list of home ownership counseling organizations to members applying for a mortgage loan within 3 business days after application. This includes first and subordinate liens on 1 to 4 family residential real estate. The exclusion to this requirement is very limited and is only available for reverse mortgages and mortgage loans secured by a timeshare. In addition to providing the list of HUD homeownership counselors, there are 2 circumstances when a member must receive counseling before a loan can close. If the loans your credit union is offering members are closed-end, dwelling-secured loans that permit negative amortization, and the member is a first-time borrower, they must receive the counseling notice and counseling. The member will need to obtain written notification from the HUD counselor before the mortgage loan can close. Please remember that this requirement is for first-time borrowers. If the members have had a mortgage in the past, they're not required to obtain the counseling. Additionally, if the member is receiving a high-cost mortgage loan, the credit union must provide the counseling notification and receive written notification that the member has received homeownership counseling on the advisability of the mortgage from a HUD-approved counselor or state housing finance authority, if that's permitted by HUD. The credit union can provide the list to members in 2 ways. First, you can obtain the list from the CFPB's website, www.consumerfinance.gov/find-a-housing-counselor. If the credit union directs the member to the CFPB's website, they must also provide the required notification which is included in this handout for this presentation. Second, the credit union can generate lists by independently using the same HUD data that the CFPB uses on the HUD-approved counseling agencies and create a disclosure that meets the CFPB's requirements. The credit union is required to provide a list of 10 HUD-approved counseling agencies using the member's zip code to generate counselors closest to that member. And sometimes that makes it a little hard to provide a pre-printed disclosure to every member. The disclosure needs to include the agency name, phone number, address, website, email address, the counseling service provided, and the languages that are spoken. And you also have to include the notification as provided here and in the presentation handout. The counseling requirement can be difficult for members. Housing counselors cannot issue a counseling certificate until the member has received all of the high-cost mortgage disclosures and receives counseling about them, and this includes their settlement disclosure. This can cause timing problems for loan closing. To mitigate these problems, the CFPB suggests that the counseling be completed in 2 stages. In the first stage, the member would obtain counseling after receiving the initial good faith estimate or the high-cost mortgage disclosures. In the second stage, the consumer has the second contact with that counselor so that the counselor can verify receipt of all additionally required disclosures prior to issuing certification. Due to the timing issues with the counseling requirements, credit unions should try to provide the settlement disclosures as early as possible to ensure a counseling certificate can be obtained before the desired loan closing date. The HOEPA rule does allow the counseling to be provided by phone, which may help members in rural areas. However, self-study programs do not satisfy the regulatory requirement. These changes became effective on January 10, 2014. Thank you for joining me at the CU Compliance Connection by InfoSite, only on CubeTV.
Thanks for watching the #1 compliance program for the credit union community. Stay tuned.